This is a story about Gordon the big engine. He was a very proud engine who always thought he knew best. But then one day, something happened to make him realise otherwise. Henry whistles too much. Respectable engines don't whistle loudly at stations. It isn't wrong, but we just don't do it. Poor Henry felt sad. Never mind, whispered Percy. I like your whistling. The next morning, as Gordon left the shed, he called to Henry. Goodbye, Henry. Be sure and remember what I said about whistling. Later that day, Henry took a slow train to Edward's station. Hello, Henry, said Edward. I was pleased to hear your happy whistle yesterday. Thank you, Edward, smiled Henry. Shh! Can you hear something? Edward listened. Far away, but getting louder and louder, was the sound of an engine's whistle. It sounds like Gordon, said Edward. But Gordon never whistles like that. But it was Gordon. He came rushing down the hill at a tremendous speed. Gordon's whistle valve wouldn't close, and he was whistling fit to burst. He screamed through the station and disappeared. Well, said Edward, looking at Henry. It isn't wrong, but we just don't do it, chuckled Henry, and Edward laughed. Meanwhile, Gordon screeched along the line. People came out of their houses, fire engines set off to find the fire, and old ladies dropped their parcels in shock. The noise was awful. Take him away and stop that noise. Still whistling, Gordon puffed sadly away. He whistled as he crossed the points. He whistled in the siding. Gordon was still whistling as the last passenger left the station. Then two fitters climbed up and knocked Gordon's whistle valve into place. And at last there was silence. Gordon slunk into the shed. He was very glad it was empty. He didn't want anyone to make fun of him. Later that evening, the other engines came back. It isn't wrong, murmured Edward, but we just don't do it. And all the engines laughed, apart from Gordon. From then on, Gordon was a much quieter, humbler engine. Well, for a few days, anyway.